So these are the assembly instructions for my April Showers flowers, and we're going to start with the umbrella base. So I have 8 identical pieces that look like this. My score lines are a little bit curved, so I'm folding down on those score lines to create 2 tabs, and I'm laying my piece down on my mat, and I'm just going in with my bone folder and I'm just smoothing out that little point between the tabs. So I'm doing that for all 8 pieces. So now that I've folded down on all those score lines, all 8 of these pieces are identical, and I'm going to take one of them. I'm putting glue all over those tabs, so from the score line to the edge. And I'm taking a second shape. I'm gluing the cut edge of the top part right against the score line, and I want the tops to be nice and even. And then I'm moving down to the bottom, and I'm kind of curving my piece so the cut edge of this piece is right along the score line, and the bottoms are nice and even. And then I'm just sort of working my way around the rest of the shape, kind of curving it as I go. I'm moving on to the set of tabs that are on the right side of that piece that I've just glued in. I'm putting glue all over both of them. I'm taking another one of my pieces and I'm repeating the same steps, gluing in the top so that the tops are nice and even, gluing in the bottoms right along that score line, moving upwards on the rest of my shape, gluing that cut edge right against the score line of my tab. So I'm just working my way around this shape, gluing in all 8 pieces the exact same way. So I've glued all of my panels together, and I have one set of tabs left. I'm putting glue all over them, just as I've been doing all along. I'm carefully joining my first shape to the last one. So next I have these decorative panels that I'm going to glue onto the outside of my umbrella. So I'm covering the underside of my panels in glue, just putting glue between all the cutouts and right along the edges. I'm placing each one of the 8 panels onto one of the sections of my umbrella. I'm just going in there with my hands and just kind of curving that panel as I'm applying it down. And I'm continuing that with all 8 of my decorative panels. So I've decorated my 8 panels. So next I have this piece that looks a little bit like a sun. I'm folding down on those score lines to create the 8 rectangles around the perimeter. I'm looking at the inside of my umbrella. I'm putting glue on one of those rectangular pieces, and I'm placing my rectangle between the 2 score lines on one of my segments, like so. And I'm flipping it over. I want the score line of that rectangle to be right on the cut edge of that segment. Then I'm putting glue on the remainder of those tabs, and I'm gluing each one of them so that the score line is right along the cut edge of the top of my umbrella. So this is what it looks like from the outside. So next I'm working on the handle. So I have 4 pieces of 110-pound cardstock. I'm putting glue on the underside of them and then just gluing them together. I've got 4 of them to make a nice sturdy handle. I'm just gluing all 4 of them stacked up on top of one another. So now that I've glued my 4 layers together, I have 3 other layers for either side of my handle piece. I have the tallest of the layers, and this one has a score line at the top, and I'm folding down on the score line. I'm putting glue all over my handle piece and matching up the edges of my 80-pound cardstock piece. I've got that tab at the top. Doing the exact same thing with the other cream colored piece, holding down on the score line. I'm putting glue on the other side of my handle. Then I am matching up the edges of my cream colored piece. So then I have this light purple color, and it's the same one as I've used on the top of my umbrella. I'm matching up the curve on the bottom and gluing the rest of it down, and I'm flipping it around, and I'm doing that with the second one. And then I have the lower part of the handle pieces that I've cut out of foil poster board, and I'm gluing one to one side of my handle and gluing the other one to the other side. So next I'm taking this piece and I'm folding on the 8 tabs that run along the perimeter of my piece. And since this is the right side, I'm going to fold all of those tabs upwards like so. And then I have my handle piece, and I'm going to thread it through the cutout that's in the center of this piece. And then I have this small octagon, and I'm going to thread my tabs through the octagon and fold them over. I'm putting glue on those tabs and then folding them downwards, gluing them onto my octagon like so. Then I'm putting glue all over that octagon, including my 2 tabs. I'm gluing my octagon right into the center of my umbrella piece, and I'm making sure that the flat edges correspond with the flat edges on that center octagon. It should fit right in the center with a small border all the way around. And then I'm going to lower that center piece down. I'm holding my handle up so that it's nice and straight, so it's perpendicular to my craft mat. Gives a little bit of extra support to my handle, and it keeps my handle nice and straight. So I'm just putting glue on all 8 of those tabs and then just gluing them down to the inside of my umbrella. So I have a little octagon cut out of more of that foil poster board, and I'm putting glue on the underside of it and gluing it to the top of my umbrella. And so next I have some extra decorative pieces to put on the outside of my umbrella. It's more of that foil poster board. I've put glue on the underside, and I'm gluing each one of them to the bottom of the 8 panels on the outside of my umbrella. So now that I've put those decorative elements on, I'm going to add some decorative panels to the inside of my umbrella. I'm just putting glue on the underside of each one of these 8 panels, and I'm just gluing them above that reinforcement piece. And I'm gluing each one of them to the interior of my umbrella, trying to have an even border on 3 sides. So I've created this umbrella, but I thought it would be fun to fill the umbrella itself with cascading flowers. I'm going to show you how I roll the flowers. These rolled flowers are different colors and different sizes, but they all go together the same way. There are many different tools that crafters use to roll flowers. So I have 3 of my favorites here. So these are reverse tweezers, and these are quilling tools. So I have 2 different ones. This is something that I bought on Amazon, but this is my favorite one. It's a Cricut tool that they used to sell on their site, and I don't think they offer it anymore, but it's definitely a nice heavy duty tool, and it does a really great job of rolling flowers. There's a little tiny groove on the end of my tool, and I'm inserting my cardstock in that groove. This is Cricut Value cardstock, and I'm just rolling my cardstock along the tip of my quilling tool. So I'm rolling with my right hand, and I'm just kind of shaping it a little bit with my left hand. And while I'm doing that, I'm making sure that the bottom stays even. So it doesn't travel up or down, it just stays exactly stacked up on top of the layer below it. Just continuing along the whole length of my cardstock piece. I'm reaching the end. So at the end there's my last petal, and then there's a little platform to glue my flower. So I've rolled it as much as I can. I'm going to remove my quilling tool, folding that little platform piece over, and then I'm going to let go a little bit and let my flower unravel just a tiny bit so that it's not too tight, like so. And then I'm going to do something that I don't usually do, but I found out that it worked, so I'm continuing with it. I'm using my art glitter glue. So this is just a very good quality liquid glue instead of using hot glue, which is what I normally do. And I'm covering my little platform piece in glue, and then I'm laying my flower down on that platform piece and waiting for my glue to take. I've always used hot glue instead, but this seems to be working for me. So since it's much easier and less time consuming for me, and I don't have to deal with all those hot glue strands, I'm going to stick with it. So as my glue's drying, I'm shaping my petals a little bit. You can go in with a craft dowel and you can roll your petals around the craft dowel. You can do them in different directions. So one of them a little bit more towards the right, a little more towards the left, straight down. Or you can also take your quilling tool and then insert your petals in your quilling tool and shape them using your tool instead. So alternatively, I can use my reverse tweezers. I pinch the end of my last petal between my tweezers, and then I just start rolling. And again, I'm just shaping with my left hand, and I'm rotating my tweezers in my right hand. So this is the last petal, and this is my little platform, and I'm taking my tweezers out from the center. I'm putting lots of glue on my platform piece, and then I'm pressing down just like I did. So I find using the tweezers, it doesn't roll them as tightly as using the quilling tools. And sometimes that's a good thing, because at least your flowers look a little bit different. And again, I'm taking my craft dowel and forming my outer petals. You could use your tweezers for this as well. I think my favorite method for those inner petals is to use my quilling tool. Just gives my flowers a little bit more body. So this one was with my quilling tool, and this one was with my tweezers. So my intention is to cover the bottom and one panel of my umbrella with flowers to make them look like they're cascading out one side. I'm going to cut and roll as many flowers as I need to fill the bottom of my umbrella. So here are my rolled flowers. I've cut some leaves just to add an extra pop of color, and I've drawn some details on my leaves. I'm going to put glue on the bottom of the leaves, and I'm just going to attach them just randomly to the sides of some of my flowers. I have 2 different sizes of leaves, and I'm just gluing them to my flowers. So next I have a piece of blue foil craft board, and then I have a piece of 110-pound cardstock. I'm just stacking these 2 layers up on top of one another. This is the base that my umbrella is going to rest on, and I have these 2 platform pieces that I'm going to glue down in the center. I'm putting glue on the underside of each half, and then I'm trying to center it as best I can, and I'm doing that with the other side as well, so they're butt up right against one another in the center. So I was trying to decide which panel I'm going to use for the flowers to cascade, and I think I like it with my handle at an angle like so. I'm going to fill in some of the flowers. It might be easier to do it while it's still flat, so I'm trying with the art glitter glue. I'm trying to avoid using hot glue. I'm putting glue on the underside of my flowers, and then I'm butting them up against one another, trying to crowd them into the center. So I'm just randomly choosing different colors and gluing in my flowers. So I'm just gluing in my flowers, doing my best to crowd them as tightly to one another as possible. So I basically filled up the bottom, and I'm going to glue my umbrella down to the platform. Since this has a foil finish, I'm putting red line tape on the underside of my umbrella. And I'm going to remove the liner of my red line tape, and I'm positioning my umbrella on the platform. And then I'm just going to keep adding more flowers. So now I think I've reached the point where I have to use my glue gun because I want to glue some flowers onto that foil. So my glue gun is nice and hot, and I'm just going to continue adding flowers. And then I'm just going to stack a few of them up as if they've fallen from the top and they're just sort of stuck midway. And so there you have it, my April shower flowers.